means they're a service member. And the bill the section of law talks about service members. And so a person is a service member, even if they're a National Guard, they're not on duty today, but they're going to be on duty the weekend, or they're going to be on duty the next time an emergency occurs in the state. They are service members. And so we believe that this bill will eliminate any room for interpretation by the occupational licensing board, such as the nursing board. And I was able to convince the nursing board that service members included reserve components. So I was able to do that through the power of my silver tongue here, which sometimes isn't that silver. But if the committee passes this and the governor ends up signing it into law, it will definitely clear this up for all the occupational licensing boards, that family members and actually people who are in the reserve component right now are also eligible for this occupational licensing if they hold a professional license. So I'd urge the committee to approve this bill and send it through the rest of the legislative process. I'll stand ready for any questions, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that very much. Committee, any questions for our proponents, either Colonel Marshall or Michael Kelly? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I really don't have a question, but that was my constituent who had the issue, his wife, with the Board of Nursing. So I'm so glad that we were able to clear this up, because that was never the intent of this bill. It was to make occupational licensing much more fluid for our service members. So the fact that they were hung up on the word active needed to be corrected. So I very much appreciate this language, and I would certainly support it. Thank you.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't able to find any language in the bill right now. How would this apply to doctors and lawyers for whatever, I don't even know what the doctor's thing is called, and then the bar?
I don't believe that any of these apply to the bar. The lawyers are very good at keeping the moat around their profession. I don't believe this applies to lawyers. I don't have the statutory reference in my head right now, I apologize, but it does talk about a bunch of different professions. I believe it does apply to physicians. Now, we have a physician over here in the corner. I don't know, he may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this would apply if a physician moves in from another state and they're in the military, that they would be able to use this expedited processing to get their licensing to practice in Kansas.
And I think our revisor has clarification. Carly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 8, subsection B, that lists the entities that this would apply to. For example, the Dental Board, the State Board of Education, there's a list of about 21 entities that 2274 would apply to.
Senator Clifford.
I just have a question for my Air Force Academy classmate, Mike Kelly.
Okay.
Is this an inside joke or?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Clifford. Any further questions for our proponents? And Senator Schmidt, did that clear up your question on that? Okay, thank you very much. Seeing none, thank you very much. We will move on to neutral testimony via WebEx. Do we have Kieran Bay online from the West Virginia University?
Thank you, Chairman Thompson and members of the committee. Can you hear me clearly?
We have you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Ki-Hwan Bae, a research associate at the NE Regulatory Research Center at West Virginia University. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this bill. This comment is submitted on behalf, not submitted on behalf of any party or interest group. It is only for providing information on potential economic implications of the bill based on economic literature. Occupational licenses are not easily portable across states like driver's licenses. The licensing barriers across state restrict the labor market activity among the spouses of military service persons who are frequently relocated across military bases and different states. To mitigate the burdens, because of their spouses' services for the nation, 48 states expedite occupation licensing for military spouses with an out-of-state license. In a recent study, I found that this expedited licensing is effective to improve their labor market outcomes after interstate migration. Although veterans are not usually directed to move to a military base in another state, which is rare, they may want to relocate to the Sunflower State for a successful transition from the military to the civilian workforce. This expedited licensing program is expected to support the labor market activity of those spouses with an out-of-state license by easing a transfer of license between the states. This bill would extend this licensing program to the spouse of part-time service members or veterans. And a potential concern would be an entry of unqualified professionals. However, this expedited licensing program would only apply to the spouse of veterans with an out-of-state license in good standing and at least 1 year of work experience in the profession. So taken together, research suggests that this licensing program for a spouse of veterans or part-time service members would be a way to alleviate burdens on veteran families who sacrifice for the nation with little harm on public health and safety. Thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on the bill or literature.
Thank you, Doctor. Committee, any questions for Dr. Bay? Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Bay, for weighing in. We appreciate the testimony. We have no other testimony on this particular bill, so we'll close the hearing on House Bill 2274 and move on to the hearing of Senate Bill 200 and have Carly explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, Senate Bill 200 designates Kansas as a Purple Heart State, requires the governor, to proclaim August 7th of each year as Purple Heart Day, and urges veterans organizations to plan special activities in observance of Purple Heart Day. Subsection A designates Kansas as a Purple Heart State. Subsection B requires that the governor issue a proclamation to recognize Purple Heart Day every August 7th. Subsection C provides that the executive director of the Kansas Office of Veteran Services promote the observance of Purple Heart Day with appropriate activities. And subsection D urges the residents of Kansas to commemorate Purple Heart Day by recognizing and commemorating the recipients of the Purple Heart. Senate Bill 200 would take effect on July 1st, 2025 after publication in the statute book.
Thank you, Carly. Committee, any questions? We actually have no testimony on this. Senator Larry Alley brought this to us to honor our Purple Heart veterans, and so we'll take that into consideration. Any other comments or questions? Senator Klemp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was curious if we would be the first state to enact this.
Research, do we know on that?
Natalie Nelson from Legislative Research. I have not done any previous research on that, but I can get that information.
Go ahead and take a look, Natalie, and while we're looking at this next bill, if you have a question, you just give me a shout and we'll get that answer. Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, do we know how many Purple Heart recipients we have or have had in the state of Kansas?
Natalie Nelson, Legislative Research. I believe we can get that number. I don't have it right now, but I can get that too, I think.
Be good if we do pass the bill out. I think people on the floor would be very interested in knowing, that's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 200 and move on to Senate Bill 106. And we're making Carly work fast today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 106 permits homeless veterans to use alternative forms for proof of identity and residency when applying for non-driver identification cards and eliminates fees for homeless veterans to obtain birth certificates for purposes of non-driver identification card applications. Section 1 amends KSA 81324 to provide that any person who is a veteran and homeless may apply for and be issued an identification card without providing an address of principal residence. A homeless veteran may provide a letter or certificate from the Kansas Office of Veteran Services, the Kansas Soldiers Home, the Kansas Veterans Home, any Veteran Services Medical Center located in Kansas, any jail or correctional facility or nonprofit organization located in Kansas for the provision of services for the homeless to verify whether the applicant resides or receives services from such entity. Additionally, they must provide either a copy or a digital form of accepted documents for proof of identity or certain expired forms of identification, which may include a common access card, a Kansas driver's license, or a Kansas voter registration card. Section 2 amends KSA 65-2418 to provide that the Secretary of Health and Environment shall not charge or accept any fee for a certified copy of a certificate or abstract or search of files if the document is requested by a homeless veteran who shows correspondence with the same entities that were listed in Section 1 and is requesting the information in order to apply for an identification card. Senate Bill 106 would take effect on July 1st, 2025, after publication in the statute book.
Thank you, Carly. Questions for Carly? Seeing none, I do have one. Would that ID card allow them to use that as, for voting? Assuming they provide the documentation, they've got that ID card, they could take it to a poll and be able to vote as a Kansas citizen.
Mr. Chair, I don't think the language states that in the bill, but I could look into that for you.
Okay, thank you, Carly. Any other questions? Seeing none, we do have proponent testimony, first from Senator Faust-Godot.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. For sake of time, if I could just make a brief statement from here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So years ago, United States Senator Jerry Moran appointed me to the Greater Wichita Veterans Advisory Board. And on that board, there is a member of our city council, our county commissioners, and then the other members of the board are basically veterans. And we have a member from McConnell Air Force Base that comes. And so anyway, they brought this issue to me, Mr. Chairman. And so Carly explained the bill just perfectly. And so with that, I will save time for, I know Susan Moeller will join us by WebEx. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator, and we'll have you stand for questions at the appropriate time. Michael Kelly's up on this bill as well, Senate Bill 106. Michael, welcome back. And I don't know if Senator Clifford will require you to show off your...
Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
If he didn't have his coin, he would have owed me a beer.
I had thought there was some inside baseball stuff with that.
Even.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Go ahead, Michael, sorry.
Thank you, sir. And we're in support of this bill, but we have a concern. And the concern is that, and you may have heard of the issue of stolen valor, where somebody claims to have earned a military medal and they didn't actually earn it. And that there's actually federal legislation on that point. We're concerned that someone could show up at a homeless service agency and say, I'm a veteran and, you know, get me an ID card. And how do we determine that they're really a veteran? Well, there's a process. And every person that serves in the military gets a discharge certificate when they're done. It's called a DD, Department of Defense Form 214. And there's some other forms that were used before the DD Form 214 became standardized. And I have a list of those on a web page. And there's 50 different forms. There's a whole bunch of them. And the web page I hope that can be displayed is the one that funeral directors use when homeless veterans. So we would like to help them out, and we think this bill with this amendment to confirm that there really are veterans, we think this will work. I stand ready for any questions, sir.
Thank you, Michael. And I can confirm, because we had a family member who was homeless, and I had to track down his DD 214, and I was able to do it. You go online, you can do it, and it's not that big of a process. And so, any questions? Well, I think we have one more. Senator Falscadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Could your amendment not only be used for what you just described, but for a veteran whose home had been in a fire and all of those documents were destroyed? Would it also help that veteran?
Yes. This process can be used to reconstruct somebody's record of military service. There's some other avenues as well. The National Archives gets military service records. So there's a way to request through the National Archives. There's another way to request through the DOD if you still have if you established a credential with the DOD when you discharged, you can go into something called Mill Connect, and it's an online database, but sometimes people lose all of that. So there's not only going to VA, but there's also, you can go to the archives, and there's also at least a third process where you can reconstruct your military records.
Senator Bowser. Bowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for your testimony. I shared the same concern with you about stolen valor. So I guess I want to do two things. One, confirm with the reviser that the amendment, do we need to do something with an amendment?
We don't have an amendment drawn up. This was a suggested amendment, but what I would do, because we're operating on such a short timeline, and when we'll finish the testimony and then talk about this, but my suggestion would be that we were going to try to package these three bills into the original House bill, which makes it conferenceable, at which point I could add that amendment in conference with the committee's permission.
My yes vote depends on this amendment.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, no, this is a very important amendment, and I think it needs to go on. Mike?
I've worked with Ms. Choi before many times. She knows what a problem I am. Actually, we've worked very, very well together, so I'm happy to work with her and help her craft the correct form of the amendment.
I think we can make this work. Thank you, Michael. I've got one more proponent testimony from Susan Mullinger of Passageways. Susan, are you online with us?
I am, and thank you.
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman Thompson and members of the committee. I am thrilled to be here. Unfortunately, a lot of Mr. Kelly's testimony was muted for some reason on my end, so I can't address some of the issues, but he and I have had a couple of conversations, and I am coming to you today in two capacities. One is as one of the founders of Passageways. We work with homeless veterans here in the Wichita area. The other is one of the committees that Senator Falscadeau mentioned, the Greater Wichita Area Veterans Advocacy Board. We are a local group of volunteers that have been working together for about 9 years now to address the issues and the gaps in services for veterans. And one of those that we've been talking about is the identification issue. So when a veteran becomes homeless or loses their identification, it's impossible for us to provide services for them. We cannot get them a job. We can't help them get into housing. The housing programs require some sort of an government-issued identification. So we work very, very close with the agencies here in Wichita and the surrounding counties to help these homeless veterans. And one of the, like I said, one of the major issues is that identification, and we have worked through lots of different unconventional ways to try to overcome that. And it just is not cohesive to the process, and it just lengthens the amount of time that they stay homeless. And our goal is to get them into permanent housing as quickly as possible. So that's why this bill is so important. Yes, stolen valor is also something we do not like to see. We have had it before. We have had to deal with it before, very rarely in the very beginning time of our nonprofit organization. But since then, we have built lots of different measures to make sure that we can identify this person as a veteran. So we work through the VA, we work through Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, United Way, whatever we need to do to get confirmation of their military service prior to us providing any type of services for them. That will continue on with this bill for the identification piece as well. We are right now approximately dealing with 1 out of every 4 veterans that come to us do not have identification of any type. We actually get excited when somebody says they've been in jail, only because we can then get a rap sheet or a record, and it has a picture on it almost 99% of the time. So that's one verification that we use to identify that person, because one of our biggest fears is not only stolen valor, but stolen identities. So we want to match that person up with their current identity. So we are urging you to look at this bill very seriously. I understand adding that language about making sure we're looking into stolen valor. That makes a lot of sense, and I know that our group would firmly be behind all of that. So, like I said, the biggest hurdle that we have with these veterans that come to us with either stolen identification or they've lost it completely, whether it's through a fire or through one of the camps, somebody cleaned up their camp and their identification went with that. Without it, we cannot get them into housing. There's just absolutely no way that process can happen. So again, we will ensure that we have used every measure possible to identify this person as a veteran and make sure that they are, and they did have service within our military community. And our goal is, as always, to end veteran homelessness, and this will be one hurdle that we can check off the list and get these folks off the street and into housing. I appreciate your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Any questions for Susan? Senator Argabright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at I think it was in the fiscal note, at 2024, we have 199 homeless. That number sounds low to me, but my question is, with this process, I'm very supportive of this, but what is the available access when you think of the geographical areas in Kansas? What does that look like? Whoever can answer, I guess, what is that?
Susan, Michael, if you'd like to step up and answer that.
Veteran organizations that they need to go to, I guess, what does that process look like?
On the homeless, this is Susan, I can answer that. On the homeless realm, there's several different agencies that cover the state of Kansas, not only the VA and all of their resources with the homeless programs, but also we have Catholic Charities and Salvation Army that do the SSVF programs. There are multiple nonprofit organizations that work solely with veterans and or homeless veterans within the state. Access, I don't believe, will be an issue at all. We at Passageways actually cover not only Kansas, but we're also working in other states as well.
Anything to add on that, Michael?
Sir, the VA has, the Veterans Administration Federal has jurisdiction throughout the state and will help anyone that claims to be a veteran to establish their identity as a veteran. Also, General Turner, who's the director of Kansas Office of Veteran Services, is sitting in the back row with me there. His office has service officers around the state, and he has service officers that are itinerant that travel to different locations on certain days of the week. So they're able to cover the whole state. Certainly not in Wallace County today, but there are agencies, and the VA does have a social worker function. And if anyone presents to those social workers, and if they've got this problem with no identification cards, the social workers in the VA will get this process. They'll go to the archives, they'll go to the DoD database, they'll do whatever they have to do to get them on the road. And Passageways does a great job for the people that present to them. So there's a number of homeless agencies, and I think they all get this problem. So I think there is statewide coverage, sir. In the rural areas, it's not easy, but it's easier in the urban areas.
Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. One, I see that these non-driver ID cards expire. How long are they good for? I did not see that in the bill.
Carly, do you have the answer on that?
My second question, while she's looking that up, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Is the fiscal note reflects that these fees are already waived by KDH&E. So does this language cover additional fees?
And that may be, I don't know if that's one for Carly or Michael, if you can answer that one.
I'm aware of is that if there is a document that is in a county recorder of deeds custody that would be germane to this, for veterans are not charged for documents that are required to do a veteran's claim. And so if these folks are trying to get help from the VA, that's a veteran's claim. So they would have authority under the law that regulates the Register of Deeds for a document that's in the Register of Deeds custody, that they would not be charged for that. So I know that part exists. And there's no fee to ask the National Archives. There's no fee to ask a federal employee to do the VA or the DoD process.
So then, Mr. Chair, what fees in this language of this bill are covered that aren't currently covered, I guess is my question. Or does this just ensure that fees won't be charged at some way in the process? Okay, thank you.
Carly can probably answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator. So I believe you're referring to the subsection 2 that's right above it that says correspondence with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs or the Kansas Office of Veterans Services, and those fees are already waived. In the new language, it expands the list of the correspondence. If the veteran were showed correspondence with those entities, then the fees would be waived.
And did you get still working on the answer to the, how long the ID card would be valid for?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
This legislation calls out the Soldiers Home. There's a home at Fort Dodge and a home at Winfield that are for veterans. And those are under General Turner's jurisdiction in the KOVS. So if the legislation should just say if they have a document from the KOVS and not necessarily call out their lower echelon. I just think that would streamline the text a little bit.
Thank you, Mike. Still looking, Carly? And if we, committee, I don't know if there is a definition of the expiration date, but perhaps we could, in the amendment, define how long that period could be. And I would obviously take any suggestions for guidance on that, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, something that, or 4 years. I don't know, driver's license, what? I can't remember how long driver's license lasts. Are they 4? Senator Clifford.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest, once a veteran, always a veteran, and it ought to be indefinite. These folks have trouble accessing services and paperwork, and
very true.
I think it'd be easier just to make it indefinite. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Asking Carly to read very quickly. Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. I just noticed there's language in the bill that refers to having to renew the ID. So that's why I was curious as to how long it lasts. Thank you.
Carly has it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This type of identification lasts 6 years.
Same as driver's license. If it's the committee's will, we could make it indefinite in the amendment that is proposed. And I would, I don't know, I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to add an amendment to make these ID cards indefinite. Would change 6-year status.
Motion from Senator Clifford, second by Senator Erickson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Move my amendment. Aye.
All those opposed, yeah, I'm sorry. All those opposed, no. The motion passes. We're back on the base bill. So we made an amendment to make that indefinite. And committee, any further discussion on this bill? Senator Fasquedo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we need to make a motion to accept Mr. Kelly's amendment?
I think at this point, since we don't have an amendment in print, what my intention would be is to take Mr. Kelly's amendment, probably make sure that Carly conforms it correctly to the bill, and then in conference, assuming we can get it to conference, which we'll have to have our House people non-concur so we can take it to conference, we can add that amendment and package it together, and that way we can get DD 214 verification, which I think is very important, very important. So with that, is there a motion on the base bill? Senator, should I move that bill before we package them up, or is it? I don't have to. Okay. So I think what we'll do then is move to. I would accept a motion to take the contents from Senate Bill 106 and add it to the contents of House Bill 2274, Senate Bill 106 as amended, and add it to the contents of House Bill 2274. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion from Senator Clifford. Is there a second? From Senator Bowser. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. We have done that. So the other motion I would entertain is removing the contents of Senate Bill 200 and also adding that to House Bill 2274. Do I have a motion to that effect? Motion by Senator Argabright. Do I have a second? Second by Senator Klemp. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. We're back on the base bill. We have House Bill 2274. This would be a Senate sub for House Bill 2274, correct, Carly? If we want it to be in conference, yeah. Is that correct, Jesse? Amending, okay. So we don't have to necessarily make that. So entertain a motion to pass out House Bill 2274 as amended favorably for passage. Senator Klemp has a motion, second by Senator Fasquedo. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. That bill passes on through. Committee, that is all the work we have for today. I do have, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we've concluded our work, do we not get lunch?
That was my next announcement.
I can blather on.
I know the lunch is waiting for us out there, I believe, because I saw them peeking in. And so lunch should be waiting for you. Thank you, committee, for your fast work and indulgence. We are adjourned.